In the late Middle Ages, the general view of society, and more importantly the Church, was every individual must always strive to be morally centered and as close to God as possible. One could ensure salvation by keeping to the faith and trusting in the writings of God and the Holy Scriptures. One prominent believer in this philosophy was St. Francis of Assisi, who began distributing his considerable amount of wealth and property inherited from his father to help the less fortunate. This caused his father to sue him for wasting resources, a serious crime during this time period. In response, Francis declared the only person he would address as father would be God, and thus began his own sect of religious prayer. Eventually, the Catholic Church demanded that the group present themselves and be judged to determine if they would be viewed as loyal followers of the holy texts or if they were a danger to the religion as a whole. In the following scene, St. Francis is able to convince the church authority to allow his group to continue by acting afraid of the power of God and the power of the church, as well as performing a small miracle with the word footprints, causing an echo in the Pope's ear.
Speak. Speak. The Pope is listening. I don't know. I'm confused. Do you believe it's important to dress like beggars? It's a first step. Dress as a man.
Good. Fine quotation. St. Paul, Epistle to the Ephesians.
You were rich, now you're poor. How will you survive in a world spoiled by sin?
Footprints. The footprints of Christ.
Footprints. Footprints. They're covered with dust, trampled by the prince of impostors. We are not poor. How can you love us?
Without limitation, without judgment.
We will never try to restrain any possible grace. We shall see.
This mentality had begun to see a great change with the introduction of merchant time, removing the concept of a secular and holy time and replacing it with the now modern linear time, a time that can be manipulated by man. Later began the Enlightenment and the rise of literary realism and materialism, the belief that matter is what created the world, not a foreign power. These new changes in philosophies provide the grounds for modern Italian writer Giacomo Leopardi to have a much darker and bleaker look at the world. Humanity itself was insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. He was under the impression that there was no such thing as salvation, that the concept of an afterlife was pure fantasy. This view of the world most telling, given that he himself was educated in a religious institution with monks and yet had been infected by such ideas. He eventually fully expressed his ideas and belief in his famous writing, Wild Broom. The following scene shows Leopardi watching the eruption of the volcano that is the subject of the poem and how he reacts to the devastation.
Sovente, in queste rive, che, desolate, a bruno veste il flutto indurato, e par che ondeggi, seggo la notte, e sulla mesta landa, in purissimo azzurro, veggo dall'alto fiammeggiar le stelle, cui di lontan fa specchio il mare, e tutto di scintille in giro per lo voto sereno.
In the previous scene, Leopardi describes the world as it glistens in empty space. He understands that there are just things man does not understand about the vastness of the universe, and we must accept those facts. There are also other Italian writers that view time as non-secular. Being able to control your own destiny, rather than just relying on faith to do it, is a major shift in thinking about time and faith. In Boccaccio's Decameron, the protagonist Nastasio takes advantage of this shift. He uses it to his own agenda to gain status and power. Nastasio fell in love with a woman who did not want anything to do with him, and after seeing a nightmare of a knight killing a woman he loved with dogs, he decided to use that to his own advantage to get the girl, Loretta, to love him back and to have the people of the city respect him. Boccaccio illustrates through the story of Nostalgia that man can control nature and time and use it to his own ends. Merchant Time uses intelligence as a major tool to further one's own life. This idea of using intelligence to control time and use it to your own benefit is clearly represented in modern media today. In the 2011 film Limitless, Bradley Cooper's character uses a drug to allow him to control more of his brain and use time to his advantage and advance his own life materially. He does not sit back and allow fate to take the wheel of his life. Rather, he uses the drug to get up and take control of his own life and make it go just as he wants to.
Trials and it's FDA approved. Alright, just out of curiosity, and that's all. I was blind, but now I see. A tablet a day, and I was limitless. I now had cultural appetites.
Since when do you speak Italian?
I finished my book in 4 days. I'd like to renegotiate my advance. Math became useful.
From 12,000 to 2.3 million in 10 days. I'm baffled by this guy. So, Eddie Mora, you do know you're a freak. What's your secret?
Medication.
This shift in faith and time is a large part of Italian literature and culture, but also significant even today. It is a theme expressed from as far back as St. Francis to modern movies such as Limitless. Understanding how faith and time are represented and thought of throughout history, and how intelligence and the rise of merchant time forever changed how people view their everyday lives and their lives as a whole, is significantly important.